Hello to all of our wonderful friends all over the world, not just in America. Thank you so much for joining us in today's immigration conversation. And I'm sure many of you have been waiting to hear again from the one and only Mr. Sharif Silmi. Hi, Mr. Sharif. Hi, Sharif.
Hey, Mary, thank you. Nice to see you, and nice to see you representing Philippines strongly today. I like it. I like it.
And my son just put it there. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Sharif. And we're very happy to be a part of Philippines and America thanks to you. But let's reserve that for another day because so many of our friends, of course, as we all know, tax season for 2024 started, I believe, yesterday, right? And so, they have their W-2s and everything. And so today, we are going to discuss all about leveraging your W-2 income, your key to EB1A and NIW success. And also, Sharif, many of our friends also many of them don't want to wait, right? They're like, we want to sign up right now. We want to work with Sharif, especially, with the potential change of administration. So we hope that you can guide us through both of these matters today. So let's,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I think that, you know, just starting off with the main topic of discussion, which is, right now is the time where a lot of people have already received their W-2.
Mhm.
Every employer should have provided it by now.
Mhm.
And that W-2 document is the most important document that one must preserve and utilize in positioning their EB1A case as it pertains to salary.
Okay.
And in my view, when we're thinking about an EB1A case, particularly for a business related contributor, and that includes an individual who is in technology related contributions, which we talk about often, but even healthcare related contributions. So for example, physicians who are now receiving their W-2 and are still on that H-1B visa and earning enormous salaries. I think that it's really important for you to leverage those earnings in positioning yourself within an EB1A conversation, because one, I think, enormous advantage that exists right now as it relates to the adjudication of the EB1A is that the actual W-2 document, for the most part, includes sort of like the gross earnings that one comes in with. So it doesn't really differentiate between what your bonus is or what your base salary is or what you may have received. And I think that's actually a positive thing
Mhm.
as it relates to analyzing the component of salary in
Mhm.
relation to your peers in the field. Because if you look at the actual salary requirement, what it talks about is that one commands a high salary in relation to his or her peers in the field. So
Mhm.
it's not like that there's some kind of chart somewhere that we want to reference and determine whether a particular number is high enough. It is both an objective and subjective requirement.
Okay.
The objective evidence, right, is the actual proof of wages.
Mhm.
So in this case, if we're thinking about a W-2 that you may have just received for 2023, that's going to be an important basis to determine where your earnings lie. And that essentially establishes what salary that you command. Because when you look at the actual statute, what it's saying is that you command a high salary in relation to your peers in the field.
Mhm.
So when we look at the W-2 document, there are two important boxes to consider. One is box one, and the other is box five. So if anybody who's familiar with the W-2, you'll know that essentially there's going to be a slightly higher number in box five,
Mhm.
because that is what they call the Medicare wages. And it's different than your income tax wages. So income tax wages will not include your, for example, your 401k uh, you know, additions or employer provided 401k benefit. Um,
Mhm.
will not include, the amount that was subtracted for Medicare, for example. So that box 5 would be the actual gross earning number that, depending on the specific circumstances, you can leverage as the base figure for your earnings. So once you establish, based on the W-2, that you meet a particular, or that you have a particular number, you can really stop there. And I think a lot of times folks tend to make a mistake of, like, providing too much information, because there's no legal requirement to give anything more than what demonstrates your earnings. In fact, the USCIS regulations specifically call upon petitioners or beneficiaries, people who are requesting the classification, to submit their W-2 for consideration of earnings. That's the document that they have determined to be the most accurate and informative to the adjudication process. So that's, again, at this time of the year, when you've now received that W-2, I think it's important to have someone take a look at it with you and see how it can be leveraged, see how it can be coupled with other evidence around it to really drive home a holistic and authentic case narrative. So, I just wanted to kind of remind folks, as we're wrapping up January, that this W-2 documentation is enormously relevant for you. And if you've seen an increase based on, what has been going on with your specific situation for the 2023 calendar year, and that's reflected in your W-2, even if it's the same as it was in 2022, it's still worth, looking at and determining, where things stand. Because as we've all seen, there's been lots of layoffs. There's been a little bit of pullback with RSUs and with bonuses and such. So the typical wages that are reflected on, that from a peer comparison perspective,
Mhm.
actually might be, a little bit all over the map right now. So we can kind of figure out what peer comparative data point we should be using in order to kind of provide that level of an deep dive analysis that a case would need. So, just a reminder for everyone to make sure you're looking at that. So,
Okay, so thank you so much
have
for that.
you seen that, like, people asking about it just in your conversations? And this is obviously a new document that everybody's receiving, as they do every year. But once you get that email, that's when you find out what your number is, because
Yeah.
it's not always the same thing as your statement earnings that would have come at the last pay period.
Okay, and right before the end of the season, right? So thank you so much. I'm sure there's so many things to digest from that alone, and I'm sure that many of our friends, especially those who have been faithfully, who've subscribed to our channel, and they do know. I think they can easily, like, walk back and remember one of our discussions, one of our immigration conversations, wherein you really said that. When you are able to satisfy the high salary criteria, that's more or less going to lead us to EB1A success. So more on that, many of our friends, I'm very grateful because so many people are trusting us, many repeat clients, many people referring their friends and family. So thank you. You all know who you are. So basically, some of them do come to us and ask us reluctantly, and they say, "Oh, Mary, or Sharif, maybe I can satisfy just the W-2 income. Maybe I can give something for originality, but that's about it." Like, I mean, it's beautiful. Our title is leveraging your W-2 income, and it brings to my mind like a lever or a springboard, and I think it's an invitation to dive in, even if I feel many of our friends are just reluctant, right? They feel that their profiles, their evidence might not be good enough. So maybe heading to your advice, especially some of our friends even are mentioning the possible change of administration. So your thoughts
Yeah,
about
and
it?
It's interesting because sometimes it's like the really, really super high earning people that don't think that their profile is good enough.
Yeah.
And largely it's because they're so busy that they only hear like bits and pieces about what is needed. And then they just like accept that at face value and don't do that deep analysis. So
Yeah,
I
you get
would just
discouraged, right?
be very, very clear about it. If you are in anywhere, anywhere in the United States, including places like New York or the Bay Area or
Mhm.
LA, even Miami, and you're above $300,000, no matter what industry you're in,
Okay.
then I think that you should at least have a conversation. And
Hmm.
you're in a backlog situation and you can't get out of it,
Hmm.
then you definitely should have a conversation regarding what can be done to show that you are in a position to be successful. Because honestly, I feel like a lot of times people who are in that position, like all of their friends are in that position. They say that you're the average of your five closest friends. So
Hmm.
if like you're, making all this, huge salary, and all the, social circle around you are making all that huge salary, you
Hmm.
start to think it's just a regular, ordinary thing. But
Yeah.
when you look at the big picture, and that's why that peer comparison analysis is so important,
Yeah.
it's actually quite unique and important to show that you're in a kind of class of individuals who have indeed risen to the very highest level of the particular field. So I again would double down on that and say, like, salary is the most important determining factor. I wouldn't go so far to say that um, if you have that criteria approved, your case will be approved. I
Hmm.
do think that there are times where the adjudicators will approve salary as high, even
Hmm.
if it's like borderline, but they would maybe not be ready to approve an entire case. But I think that the reality is an individual who is, able to demonstrate that their earnings are 300 plus, particularly if you're, I would say 500 plus, you're almost, guaranteed to be approved. That's my experience. I mean, there's really, because it says a lot about what you do. There's nobody that's in that uh, stratosphere of earnings
Hmm.
that does not also have a critical or leading role in a department or organization.
I mean,
There's no person in that stratosphere that does not also, have original contributions that are transcending their employer and are significant to the field. Folks in that stratosphere will also find themselves with opportunities to supplement their case through other thought leadership activities. I think it is probably the most important determining factor. And, you know, more directly, it kind of gets somebody to, like, pass the BS test. Because frankly speaking, many more applications for EB1A are being submitted, and many, many more are being denied
mhm.
right now than ever before. I mean, the data is starting to come out, and the denial percentage, particularly, and they even have it specifically for Indian nationals. I did mention this, I think, a few months ago or a couple months ago, that the denial rate for Indian, or the approval rate rather, for Indian nationals is, I think, 12% or so less than other countries. I mean, that's a huge number to, in a very similar kinds of, positioned individuals. And I really think that the root cause of that is misinformation and attempts to file cases that are based on, sort of self-promoting data or self-promoting evidence. So let me
Mhm.
explain what I mean by that. Um, and the difference between that and something like a W-2. right?
Hmm.
A W-2 is an IRS issued document. It's an official document from the government. It is only, I mean, a salary is only provided, even the most wealthy company, the reason why they're so wealthy is they're very smart about how they position their resources.
Hmm.
So for someone to earn, if we're talking about, $500,000 stratosphere, then they've done something to receive that kind of
Yeah.
compensation, or they have some kind of, specific knowledge or ability that is, fundamentally important
The
to the
company.
activity that they're engaged in, right?
Mhm.
And that is a very, very authentic, organic means to demonstrate that you're at a high level within the field. Versus, or and then what concerns me would be if such an individual follows the sort of bad advice that's out there and
Mhm.
says, "Oh yeah, I heard that I need to go and do a media uh, article, interview
Wait, yeah.
in the I can't remember the newspapers. Like, I've seen Khaliji Times, which is a Gulf. I don't even know if it's actually published in the newspaper, but that's where it's purportedly published. And then, there's others, and it's like this, picture of the individual in a fancy, suit, and then, an interview with them, that it's clearly paid media. I mean, the adjudicators aren't stupid. And they also are, smart enough to understand that, what actually would satisfy or demonstrate that one has indeed, reached this extremely high level of, understanding or, contribution, would be that very high salary number. So, I think it's really important for people who are in that sort of, field, or in that class of professionals, to get the right advice and to not make huge mistakes with their case, because their case can be undermined just by making, dumb mistakes of submitting the wrong thing, or essentially focusing on the wrong thing, rather than looking at the fundamental nature of what their case ought to be about.
Yeah, and initially when you said that there's high rates of denials with EB1A, I wanted to disagree with you because, like in the past week, we've had nothing but approvals. But then, you were saying it was like, the overall picture. And then
Yes.
because you mentioned when it comes to W-2, so because you said it's a government issued, evidence or piece of paper.
Mhm.
So of course that makes it objective, right? Even if they verify with the IRS, it's basically, whatever is
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
it's a trustworthy document,
Mhm. But
absolutely.
then some of our friends, just to augment it, or if they say, "Oh, Sharif, I just fall short of $1,000, right? I'm $299,000. Can I, like maybe a friend with a startup can offer me a, let's say, a consultant role to to up my income." That's one. And then another thing, do you think, because it speaks commanding a high salary, do you think offer letters, right, of prospective commanding high salary, will that also work or not in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the great changes that has come forward in the past, year, which is the ability to use offer letters as evidence in demonstrating that one commands a high salary. Um, and for somebody who is not holding a W-2 with 350,000 or so, or $500,000, earnings, then absolutely. I mean, you're probably stuck in a situation where that you can earn more, but your H-1B situation has you locked in to a particular role, or you're afraid to change jobs because you're I-140 and is going to have to be transferred, and what nightmare is going to come from that. So all of these sorts of systems that are in place that are preventing you from actualizing your potential, are what's going to kind of weigh down on your wages. So the great news that you alluded to is that those individuals can leverage an offer letter. So if they have, for example, a startup idea that they're working on with a colleague or even a friend, and that um, startup organization, you know, uh, has the means to pay a much higher wage, and they have an offer letter, even if they don't take the offer letter, um, because of their immigration situation, it is still evidence of commanding a high salary so long as it is extended to the individual. So, absolutely, offer letters are good evidence and can be used to demonstrate that one qualifies under the criteria. So it's really really fabulous that we're able to do that, and I think a lot of people have definitely benefited from that over the past year or so. So that's another great thing. And I know we have other questions and stuff, but I have, as you know, a hard stop, and folks are waiting for me.
And calling.
Um,
Yeah.
so what I was, just gonna leave with is the idea that, like, think about where we are in the calendar if you're out there and you're considering an EB1A scenario,
Mhm.
and and note that, like, even a very strong case where you think, like, I've been building my profile and I feel like I want to bring it to a law firm, even a strong case, for a firm to handle it in a very solid, thoughtful, focused, and determined way will need time, right? Like, a normal case will need 6 months,
Yeah.
and there are cases that obviously that need less, and there's some cases that need a lot more.
More.
um we are basically, what, we're almost in political silly season, and we're going to have elections in 9 months in this country, and there's going to be a new administration in a year from now. So it's really really, I think, a very good time to file. um, we've seen amazing results.
Mhm.
It's better than ever. Sometimes I'm shocked how well it's going with regard to cases that I thought they almost didn't really, we couldn't figure out for a while, and then we finally were able to put a solution together and get them across the finish line, and they're getting approved. We're having less RFEs than I've ever seen, and it is, I mean, obviously it's a testament to you know obviously, everybody involved here at Selmy Law that's doing an amazing job, but also that we're not blowing with the wind. Like, we're not going to depend on flimsy evidence. We're
Mhm.
not going to depend on things that are just like very recently done and are not
Yeah.
backed up by an authentic narrative.
Mhm.
So because of that, I think we're sort of remaining above the fray and not getting into the weeds. Look, some people that just like publish an article recently and do like a
Mhm.
paid kind of whatever review or something, and
So,
have a decent letters from their employers. Once in a while they'll get approved. Like every 10 or 20 cases or something, it'll get approved, no doubt about it. And that person's gonna be so happy that they're like making all this noise, and people are like, oh my god, everybody's gonna, and it's like, no, but look at the data, look at the statistics.
Mhm.
It's not true, but I mean, more people are getting approved because more people are filing, but many, many, many more people are also getting denied.
Right. Mhm.
And if you want to have you have a window. It's a short window at this point, in my view, of 10 to 12 months, where we have the existing regulatory requirements and some benefits of certain USCIS policy decisions.
Mhm.
um, I would definitely, urge
Take
anybody
advantage of.
who's yeah, absolutely, anybody who's in that conversation should absolutely be, leveraging this time to take advantage of it, because we don't know what we're going into. I mean, 2016 to 2020, we learned so much, and we refined our skills, and we helped so many people under very, very difficult circumstances. I
Hmm.
think Mr. Trump is back in office, it's going to be something like we've never seen before. It's going to be, I would say, very, very, very difficult for people who are, trying to get green cards, trying to get permanent residence, and we're talking about highly skilled, like people of means right now. But I mean, imagine people who are not like they're going to be screwed even more.
Hmm.
So it's going to get ugly if that happens with regard to immigration in 2025. So I would just say, make sure you take advantage of 2024. I mean, whether it's contacting us or somebody else that you feel is competent. I mean, there's really, really no reason for somebody who's sitting on a backlog and is interested in remaining in the US to not at least
Well,
try or
yeah.
to, look into the fact. And then we'll be honest. I mean, we'll tell you. I mean, how many people we refuse people all the time because they don't have the foundational bases to apply. And then if you think you want to do it like the sort of manufactured or whatever self promoting way, I mean, go for it, but I'll point you to somewhere else where, other firms might be able to handle, that kind of thing or, go forward. But what we're doing are cases that are authentic, that are like, super thoughtful and, focused on actual business, technology, healthcare, semiconductor, like energy related activities that are actually bringing about benefit and change and innovation to the world and to the economy.
That's very true. And I'd like to add that it's authentically yours, right? Just customs, just uniquely your own case, but of course, founded um, on the experience, right? That only Attorney Sharif Silmi can provide. And of course, you also have the rest of our team who'll be very happy to talk to everybody. But as mentioned, people are calling Attorney Sharif. So thank you, Attorney Sharif. And I'm sure that everybody's looking forward to our next sessions. But for now, we hope that you do visit all of our social media websites. Simply type in Sharif Silmi on Facebook or Silmi Law on Facebook and Instagram. And our website is www.silmilaw.com. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mary. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.